Hi everyone, my name is Tess Bowers, and today I will be talking about what I learned from the AMA webinar, How to Conduct Marketing Research with Quasi-experiments. So mainly this webinar focused on how marketers can test cause and effect relationships in real-world situations, even when they can't randomly assign customers or completely control all the different conditions. So first, what is a Quasi-experiment? A Quasi-experiment is a research design that looks for causal relationships but doesn't use random assignment like a traditional experiment would. So instead of assigning people randomly, researchers study naturally occurring differences. For example, comparing two cities where one launches a new ad campaign and the other doesn't. So the main question we try to answer is, did X cause Y? Next, why do Quasi-experiments matter? So in marketing, we often cannot randomly assign who sees an ad or who gets a discount. And that's where the Quasi-experiments actually come in. They help us estimate the impact of real-world changes, for example, price shifts, ad exposure, or even promotions, by using the natural differences that already exist. So instead of a perfect lab setting, we will use real-life situations to draw these different insights. Next, we're going to be discussing and going through the different types of Quasi-experiments. There are four of them, as you can see here on the screen. First, interrupted time series, which tracks results before and after something changes, like a new campaign launch. The second is difference in differences, which compares a group that gets the change versus the one that doesn't. Number three, regression discontinuity, which assigns a treatment based on a cutoff, like customers above a loyalty score of 80 getting a coupon. And finally, number four, instrumental variables, which uses a related variable like weather to isolate cause and effect. So overall, each of these helps marketers find evidence of what's working, even without full control over the data. So now we're going to be talking about a real world example from the webinar. In the webinar, one example focused on online advertising effectiveness. A consumer goods company wanted to know if banner ad exposure increased purchase intent. Since the campaign was already live, they couldn't randomize who saw the ads. Researchers used a difference in differences design, which compared consumers who visited sites with the ads versus similar consumers who didn't. They found that the exposed group showed a 6 to 10% higher purchase intent score, showing that ad exposure had a real causal impact. So I chose to go ahead and take this example that they put in the webinar and relate it to one that actually happened in real life to make it more specific. So I chose the Starbucks app redesign. So, as you can read here, Starbucks did introduce a new app in select cities around the US, and these researchers at Starbucks used the difference in differences method to compare the new app versus the old app. And their findings showed that there was an 8% increase in mobile orders on the new Starbucks app, which proved that there was a causal impact when the app was improved versus when it was not improved beforehand. So this just showed how real-world testing can reveal powerful insights without lab settings. So now when it comes to advantages and challenges, we have a couple different for each of these two different categories. There's definitely some big pros and cons to Quasi-experiments. As for advantages, they use real-world data, not just lab results. The findings apply better to everyday marketing situations, and they are great for testing pricing, ads, or new business strategies. As for challenges, there are other factors like seasons or promotions that can interfere with results. It is harder to fully prove cause and effect, and strong data tracking is necessary to make valid comparisons. Applications in today's marketing. Quasi-experiments are used everywhere in marketing today. For example, in digital advertising, measuring the return on investment from exposure differences. In retail analytics, testing store promotions. For brand tracking, they measure long-term campaign effects. And in public policy, they may analyze ad restrictions or pricing regulations. These methods overall just let marketers act like scientists, finding real causal insights from naturally occurring data. So now I thought it'd be interesting to have a Q&A after you have heard about all the different parts of Quasi-experiments. So these are a couple questions you might want to think about now. First, why might a Quasi-experiment be less credible in some cases? And secondly, can you think of a brand that could use this type of design instead of an A/B test? And for that second question, you might go back to the slide where I talked about Starbucks and different companies using Quasi-experiments to test their new app, for example. These are good reflection questions on when Quasi-experiments are appropriate and when they may not be. So in summary, Quasi-experiments help marketers learn from real world and not just controlled environments. They're very powerful tools for understanding consumer behavior when we can't run perfect lab tests. Thank you so much for listening. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is linked below, and my source of the webinar is also linked below. Thank you.